Reading versus audiobooks. Is one better than the other? More specifically, I'll be looking at the question of reading physical books versus listening to audiobooks, as I've never used ebooks and I don't have any experience with them. This video is an exploration of the strengths and weaknesses of both physical books and audiobooks, as well as what I personally prefer. The one situation where reading a physical book is likely better than listening to an audiobook is when studying for a test. A 2010 study found that when students were given a lesson in podcast form to study for an upcoming test, they did significantly worse than students who were able to read the lesson. So it might be worth buying or renting the physical book for a class where you'll be quizzed on the material. On the other hand, a 2016 study gave students a nonfiction book about World War II to either listen to, read in ebook format, or both listen to and read in ebook format simultaneously, and all three groups had equal reading comprehension. It could be that physical books are superior to both audiobooks and ebooks when it comes to reading comprehension. Or it could be that there isn't any difference when listening to a nonfiction book, but there is a difference when listening to a lesson in podcast form. But aside from this very specific situation, there probably isn't any downside to listening to an audiobook compared to reading. In fact, it is possible that listening to fiction might even be superior to reading fiction. There's a social aspect to listening to someone read a book or tell a story. So people might actually be more empathetic and creative when listening to an audiobook. With reading, there's the extra step of translating symbols on a page. The vast majority of reading I've done in my life has been listening to audiobooks, so I definitely have a positive opinion of audiobooks. Personally, I prefer to read nonfiction books and listen to fiction books. I comprehend the information better reading nonfiction, and I can easily reread a sentence or paragraph if I need to. And there will often be pictures and graphs that you won't be able to view if you listen to the audiobook. I guess it also depends on what kind of nonfiction you're reading. I feel like a lot of videos on reading assume that nonfiction equals self-improvement. That might be fine for listening to an audiobook since it's usually one basic idea repeated different ways. However, nonfiction is so much bigger than that one genre. But I love listening to fiction books as it feels like someone is telling you a story. And you can use your imagination easier to visualize the story, scene, and characters without feeling like you're slowing down the reading. I'll also often reread sentences and paragraphs in a way that I don't think is helpful. Listening to an audiobook helps me to keep moving in the story and not be obsessive about taking in every little detail. I also generally find listening to a book a lot more relaxing than reading. I'm also not an especially fast reader, and I'm a fairly slow reader when it comes to fiction. I can read factual information and take it in much faster than fiction or creative writing. So, this has been an exploration of reading versus audiobooks. Which do you prefer? Comment below. And thank you for watching my second video.